transfer case? It goes from the engine to the transmission, and then it goes from the transmission to the transfer case, and then it goes from one side of the transfer case to the drive shaft to the differential on the front, and then goes to the wheels, and then on the other side it goes from the drive shaft to the axle and then to the rear wheels.
Transfer cases are found on four-wheel drives and all-wheel drives. They split the engine torque from the engine, well, obviously, to the rear and the front of the wheels. And what they'll do is they'll go from the output shaft to the input shaft to the intermediate shaft to the drive shaft and to the wheels. And usually on four-wheel drives, they will be controlled by the driver to where they can manually activate four-wheel drive on low speeds or on a standstill. And they practically activate the front wheels where they're turning with the rear wheels. And transfer cases can either be driven by gears, chains, or hydraulics. Nowadays, they're driven by a chain because they're more practical and they're quieter, but gear are more durable and can hold more horsepower without braking or anything like that. And
Alright, so this is half of your transfer case. What you're looking at right here is the side that bolts to the transmission. There's actually this little bit here that goes on here somehow. I'm not going to line that up for you, but anyway, it's got a seal, keeps all your fluids from getting all mixed up. This is the input shaft. This is the input shaft bearing. This nut right here is how you set your preload for said bearing, if there is a preload. On the inside here, we have our oil pump, and then there's like a little tube over here, it's a pickup tube. This right here, if you can kind of look in this little hole over here, there's a little screen right in here. That kind of keeps all the, I guess if you would, large particles, if there were to be any in here, out. If there is any small debris, it's probably still going to get through the screen because the mesh is still somewhat large. This is the planetary gear set. There are some bushings in here, so the output shaft actually rides in there and it doesn't score up the shaft at all. I say it shouldn't score up the shaft at all. There's the sun gear, which is this main gear right here in the middle, and it has let's see, there's four planetary gears that rotate around the sun gear, which transfer the power to this all right, it's a Sprag. Anyway, this gear here meshes with the input gears on the input shaft. This is where we get our gear reduction from, so that we're not like one-to-one with the engine and the transmission. And this little sensor here, which you can see on the inside of the case via this little donger, actually meshes with this little detent on the selector shafts to let you know if you're in four-wheel drive or not. And as you can see here, we got some juicy fluid. You kind of need that in your transfer case. If you don't, the sucker's gonna get hot and burn the fuck up.
All right, so this is the other half of the transfer case right here. So you can see we've got the output shaft or intermediate shaft, which turns into an output shaft that is full of gears. We've got a few different gears. This one right here is going to be one of the four-wheel drive gears, which is selected by this arm and spring contraption here. I found out the hard way that if you pull on this too hard, it'll come out and it's hard as shit to get back in. But if you don't, it works great. Basically what it does is it uses a linkage system to pull these, and it'll move this up and down. It's kind of hard to move when it's not in use, but it'll move it up and down and select this gear, which in turn will move the other side of the shaft that goes towards the front wheels. It's got, it's got two different arms. One of them will create neutral in the transfer case somehow with your your selector, and that's for like if you're trying to tow the vehicle or you just want the engine and transmission to work independently of the drive shafts. So it's got different gears and bearings and plates and such. Whole shaft is greased. This actually mates, as Zach said, with the other side of the input shaft. There's gears that hold this, and this will turn, when it's in two-wheel drive mode, it'll turn the output shaft with the input shaft via gear reduction, obviously, but it'll turn it with it, just normal rear-wheel drive operation. But as soon as you select the four-wheel drive, it'll make the front drive shaft move.
It's ball bearing. Spins very nice. Okay, so basically in a four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, you have a transfer case that consists of basically two output shafts. One is for the front wheels, and the other is just for the rear wheels. And then you have a selector, which will allow you to move some stuff, like this. It's actually really hard. I had to work out for a week just to be able to do this. And it'll allow you to select either front wheel drive or have it go into all wheels so you can tow things like your cattle, because we're in Oklahoma. So whenever you select it and it gets onto one gear, it's connected by this chain, which is allowing all of them to spin at the same speed. And this ball bearing does its thing as they all do their thing. But then whenever it's not connected, it's just going to the rear wheels. So that's how it works. Then again, like Zach said earlier, this is connected, or it goes onto this sensor right here. They kind of mesh together, and that has a little ball. And that's obviously electronic, so you just have a little extra switch instead of your gear shifter in your automatic car. You have one next to it, or you could have a button that tells you to put it in all-wheel drive mode or not. So that's how a transfer case works.